Thomas Hobbes once said, in what he theorized as the Hobbesian pattern of life, that life becomes short, nasty, and brutish if there is no government. A situation where there is a government and then rules, laws are made, and they are not strictly followed. Sections of an act, for instance, are stretched out, but they are not duty bound to go through it and ensure that it's been followed. Well, security agents could also be caught in this web, just as the citizenry could also be caught in this web. And all of this pans us to look at issues as regards treatment of gunshot victims. A situation where someone is shot, for instance, and he gets to the hospital, and it's been said that before any treatment will be administered, then there should be a clearance report from the police. And that again is a big challenge. Why such a person is losing blood. Reports have always had it that in the course of this, moving from one hospital to another, such victims, they lost their lives. And well, is there a law that pertains to protecting human life in this respect? Well, this is where Law and You comes in, and we're going to be having this sensitive topic onto this episode. Don't forget, it's still a new year, and we've been on the need for security agents to lessen confrontations on the citizens. I am Philip Omo-Gyupo, and discussing this vital topic with me is a custodian of the law, Emmanuel Obakolo. Good to have you join.
It's a delight being here.
All right. So, well, it's a new year, and so many things happen. Just like the story of someone who maybe could be a victim of gunshot. We understand that there is an act, that really protects the right of a human being that may be caught in this act of being wounded or being shot, and they need to be treated with or without a police report. What's your thought?
Yes, once again, good afternoon, Nigerians, and Happy New Year. And we do pray and hope that this year will be a beautiful one to every Nigerian.
Amen.
Yes, there is a law that is titled Victims of Gunshot Act 2017. Section 1 of that act does provide that any person is entitled to treatment both in public and private hospital with or without a police clearance, what some call police reports. Section 2 of that act thus provides that security agencies should assist in the treatment of victims of gunshots with or without police clearance. Section 3 thus provides that where a victim of gunshot is not treated, that the medical practitioner shall be liable to an imprisonment of 6 months or 100,000 naira fine. Section 5, which is the very big one, provides us that where a victim of gunshots is not treated or taken care of and he dies, that the hospital and the medical practitioner in charge shall be liable to an offense and will be guilty to 500,000 naira fine or 5 years imprisonment. Now, the act is there since 2017, as signed by former President Major General Muhammadu Buhari, retired. But you know where we have a challenge in this country is how many persons are aware of that type of law in this country. 1. 2, is there proper orientation from public agencies with respect of giving the people of Nigeria
the
awareness that there is a law of this manner does
part of
exist.
the reason why we have this on this platform.
Then another challenge again is that victims, in situations where victims who were refused treatment because they don't have police clearance, they don't also cry out. So when you look at the challenge facing us just now, is both from the angle of the victim, the hospital, the public,
the government,
and the security agencies.
Okay.
Because the government will have an excuse to tell you that there is a law does exist. But an agent of the government, one for instance, the National Orientation Agency. See, the National Orientation Agency has a lot of work to do. Today, even the insecurity challenges we face, to my mind, I finger them as one of the problems.
Well,
because there is no proper orientation to Nigerians.
We have often said that, we have laws, and all of these laws are there, but the challenge we have is implementation of these laws. Now, it's one thing for these laws to be there. Like you said, it's another for the citizenry to find it out in order not to be ignorant, because even the Book of Wisdom said that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Now, let's look at it critically. Even with the fact that the laws are there, we still find the hospitals, denying people of victims treatment. We still find, some security agents also trying to enforce it, that they must ensure that they get a police report, before such persons are treated. How do you make sense out of this? Because it seems to my mind that there seems not to be sincerity of purpose on the part of the government.
Yes, on the one hand, yes. On the other hand, no. Because, like I did say, even the victims themselves have their own problems. Because for some time now, somebody did say, and I agree absolutely with him, that if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in the books. You will hide that thing permanently from a black man. What that simply implies is that black men don't read. That is simple.
Okay, but what about for the law enforcement agent?
Sir, let me start.
That is aware of this law.
Let me start with
that
the
is
people.
aware that there is that there is a right that belongs to that human life.
Even the hospitals, they are aware. The hospitals, we pretend, the hospitals, the doctors, particularly when they see that victim is in between death and life, and not wanting to accept that person the way that person is, you see them give these excuses. Go and bring police clearance.
I heard of reports like that transpired in Abuja, for instance, where a lady was in one of these one chance vehicles, and she was caught in that web, and something went on. They robbed her of her belongings and stabbed her in multiple ways and threw her out of the vehicle. And in the process of that, she had a lot of bruises and she was bleeding. Just as good Samaritans, passers by, they helped and took her to a nearby hospital. It was reported that 3 hospitals denied treating this lady. In the course of moving her from one hospital to another, she gave up the ghost. So in such a case, who do you blame, or who should be held responsible?
In this instance, it's the hospital. That's why Section 5 says, where a victim of a gunshot, even accident victims, were refused treatment because of police clearance, that the hospital shall be liable for a term of imprisonment of 5 years or 500,000 naira as fine. Now, where there is an issue is where a victim dies.
Exactly.
Who takes up the matter?
Who takes it up?
That is where there is problem. And that is where, you see, even the law, there is still a lacuna. As pretty as the law is, there is still a lacuna. The responsibility as provided for by the law is not vested on all, because the law now says in section 2 of that act, Victims of Gunshot Act 2017, says that security agencies should assist victims of gunshot to ensure that they get proper treatment. But be it as it may, we've seen situations where, for instance, accident victims, the road safety will go to a scene of accident. What they will be interested in is to see how they can get the dead bodies, the remains. Those who are injured, grievously injured, they don't even care about those people. They look for the dead bodies, just take to a nearby hospital, dump and turn back. But the law mandates them to take care of the victims, take them to the hospital, ensure that they are being treated before you can depart that environment. But in our own situation, it seems nobody is in charge.
Well, the way I started, I started by quoting what was said in the Chaotic Life as propounded by Thomas Hobbes, where it is also known as the Obesian pattern of life, where life is short, nasty and brutish when there is no government. Now, a situation where we have a government and such a thing happens, and then you are saying that the hospital should be held responsible, and the government already saw all of these reports happening. The government is already in the know of all of these issues, that hospitals probably are not falling in line to obeying this act, and even that some security agents are not also falling in line to obey this act. Is it not the court duty of the government to make sure that some are used as scapegoats?
That is why I did
to serve as deterrent to others.
At times.
Because if you wait for the victims who probably are from poor background, are not able to, do not have the wherewithal to even take a square meal a day, not talk of having 3 square meals, then it becomes a chaotic lifestyle, the Obesian pattern of life, where it seems that there is no government, irrespective of the fact that we have a government.
I think in this instance, it's everybody's responsibility, including me. I think so. Where you have information of such situation, you should take it up. But the problem with the law itself is that the law does not give responsibility to all. The law gives responsibility to a few. Because, for instance, the prosecution of matters like this lies with the Nigerian police, not even the military. So you see,
heard the report like this.
Yes, lies with the Nigerian and go. The Nigerian police will not. Some are prosecuted. The Nigerian police will not swing into any action except somebody somewhere mobilizes them.
But the Inspector General have always said it that this act must be obeyed fully, even by the security agents. Even
with what the Inspector General, the incumbent Inspector General of Police said, he is saying it in respect to the Nigerian police, not to the citizenry. And I must tell you, Philip, for we to get result, for this act to achieve its purpose, all must be included. I should have responsibility to even prosecute such an hospital.
Okay, but looking at the act, where even it was said that after admitting such a victim of gunshot, the hospital should find a way to quickly demand for a police report, within 1 or 2 hours. Now, if we're to look at what was said in that law or in that act, between 1 to 2 hours, does it mean that if it exceeds 2 hours, then the hospital will be seen as an enemy of the state?
No, the law.
I'm trying to see why the hospitals are very, very careful.
It's not just
not being involved in such.
It's just
because
not.
They could also look at the time lag that they may not be available with, to make sure that there's a process, or to make sure that the procedure of getting a police report is followed. Why the victim is being treated. No,
that is not mandatory. Because if you look at section,
the time lag is not mandatory.
Yes, no, it's not mandatory. That between 1 or 2 hours you must get because if you look at section 10 of that act provides that within 24 hours that the hospital should also ensure where they are be able to make proper identification of the victim, to ensure that the victim's family information is sent to the victim's family. But here we are in a country where nobody cares. Unfortunately, we have a pretty law, like I did say, but somewhere there's also when you talk of participants by all, then there is a kind of withdrawal. There is this restraint, because for instance, where somebody picks up such matter and begin to follow up, and the family of the victim now hides under the umbrella of saying, oh, we are poor, we don't want to go further, we don't want to prosecute.
That's if they That's if they.
Then what now happens to the person who is ensuring that the victim gets justice? So you see that is a play by all.
We have a big challenge here.
Very big one.
Daniel, a situation where even before it gets to even getting to identify where the victim is from in terms of getting to the family members, there's always this challenge of a monetary deposit before any treatment is done. Most especially when it comes to private hospitals. Nothing comes free, and any doctor that is in a private hospital is being paid by the employer, by the one that owns the hospital, and any drug being used or administered, and even the nurses are being paid. So how do we solve this challenge?
That is why
of monetary deposit, because again, that's part of it.
That's why
the government coming here to kind of assure the private hospitals that they should go ahead if nobody comes up to take ownership of such a victim as a family member, that the government will bankroll such expenses.
That is why I did say that as pretty good as the law, there's also a lacuna, because where it involves monetary challenges, that law ought to have provided for a social welfare.
Exactly.
So that by the time it gets to a private hospital, the private hospital can now identify the victim.
Exactly.
Can now commence with treatment and send their reports
to assess the.
Yes, yes. But here we are. Even the government schemes with laws. The government will make law, shift the responsibility of the law to the people. The people on the other side will restrain themselves from the law made by the government.
Maybe that's why such things happen in developing polities. Don't forget.
Yes, that's why you see.
Like African politics, for instance, are developing or underdeveloped polities. So how do we inject sanity into making sure that we have a system that works?
For we to have a system that works, one, the government must be sincere. Two, the government must be ready to take responsibility. Three, the people should also ensure that the government do the right thing and the right time.
How do we codify this in the act?
We can. If it's in the act, it just
so that it can also criminalize even the government if it fails to provide responsibilities in that direction.
That law criminalized the government. If you look at particularly section 2 of that act, it does. That's why the act provides us that government agencies should ensure that they assist victims of gunshots. Are you getting it?
Otherwise,
but now
a charge can be pressed against the government.
Yes, it can.
Now, if it has supposed to be with the hospital, it becomes a civil liability charge.
It can.
Okay.
It can metamorphose from just only being criminal to also civil.
Okay.
When you talk of the fundamental rights of the person, yes. Okay. But here we are. Who bails the cats? Who takes the responsibility? And a situation where someone comes out to say, oh, I want to take the responsibility. I want to ensure that this person gets justice. And there is a restraint by family members of that person. Because you cannot get justice without the family members of that person, the victim. So you cannot see that in the chain reaction, the government, the people, the agencies, the hospitals, the medical practitioners were all guilty. Despite the pretty nature of that art, yet the art seems not to have strength or power or weight, as the case may be. But the day somebody will test the veracity, the day somebody will test the strength of that art, you will discover that that art has strength and it has weight.
Well, in case you're just watching, it's Law and You, and we're looking at issues surrounding the treatment of gunshot victims and the rights that they have in terms of being treated before a police report or a police clearance can be issued. But a situation where we have the abnormal and very, very country, or in the very, very polity that we live in, becomes a very crucial reason why this topic has been panned out in order for us to have a very healthy discussion with this. And I've been discussing with Emmanuel Obakpolo, a legal practitioner. Now, let's look at the aspect where you also said that for the doctor, for instance, can be held liable, and he can be in prison for 6 months with a fine. And then even for the hospitals, they can also be held liable. Now, it's been said that if the laws are strict, then it brings room for violations. Do you think that the laws should have been stringent in terms of the penalties for, not doing the right thing or falling short of what they should have been given, or what they should have given as services from the doctor and even the hospital?
I think this law is stringent enough.
You said 6 months imprisonment or with a fine?
Yes.
Of 100,000 naira.
But where the person, that is section 3 of it. But in section 5, where the person dies, is 5 years imprisonment or a fine of 500,000 naira. Can you get that?
500,000 naira is not enough. There's no compensation.
In the today Nigeria,
you cannot compensate.
Yeah, for life.
For loss of life.
We agree. That does not also stop the fact that the justice cannot be gotten on a civil ground. This is criminal. It's purely criminal.
Okay, we have a situation.
But on a civil ground,
okay,
they can also prosecute and get a better one. That is the position. You can pari passu go for both criminal and civil. So, but for the criminal, this is what the law provides for. But if when the person dies, the victim dies, there can also fundamental rights matters can also be brought against the doctor and the hospital.
We have a challenge where, like I said earlier, it's a very difficult thing, a challenge where, even presently we are still trying to tackle the aspect of paying through our nostrils, for the fuel we take per liter over the fuel subsidy remover. And it has a spiraling effect, multiple effects on, skyrocketing commodities. Food prices have gone up alongside other commodities. A situation where such a thing happens to someone from a poor background, for instance, we know anything that drops in this country, even those who notice it will pretend that they didn't see it. Who comes to defend the poor, for instance, who don't have the wherewithal from being crushed by this ignorance or by this act that maybe the hospitals or the doctors may refuse treatment of such a victim? Who comes, or what body comes to the rescue of such a victim? Can we say that the NBA, for instance, is already an embodiment of lawyers that form the custodian of the law? Or can we say an agency from the government? So can you throw light in this?
Yes, before I go to other persons, first I want to look at the victim and the victim's family. Because where the victim's family come up and shout, persons will come out. For instance, some of us will do.
Okay.
Yours truly can also come out. We must not wait for MBA.
Within the body of
yes, it must not be MBA. MBA is only an umbrella.
Okay.
So some of us can come and take charge and begin to see that justice is gotten for the victim.
Thank you so much for being part of this, and we hope to have a strengthened part 2 of this in order for us to treat all of these issues in total. Well, there's so much we can take. Don't forget, it's still a new year, and we may be opportune to have a stretch of this topic in order for us to have an embracing, romance on this very issue as regards bringing light to all of these areas that seem shady, so that there won't be anyone that will be seen caught in the web of being ignorant of the law or of his or her rights. I am Philip Omo Gupo. We do this same time next week. Goodbye.